So today I thought I would take you on a tour of our bedroom, which is one of the spaces in the house that I haven't shown you yet. So before we head up there, I thought I would explain a bit more about the layout of the house. So the second floor is essentially divided into three areas. There's an unfinished space that's directly above the cellar. And then we have our primary suite, which makes up the second floor and the main part of the house. So we have a bedroom, an adjoining bathroom, and then a family living room. And then the third area on the second floor is the living room space for the Jeep. So as I have said, each of these spaces are completely private and have their own entrances. So let me take you up to the second floor and show you around our bedroom. All right, so as I just mentioned, our bedroom occupies a few different spaces on the second floor. So it really is like its own little private retreat or a private suite. So there's the bedroom itself, an adjoining bathroom, and then there's also a family room on this floor. So we have a living room downstairs that we can use when we have guests over, and then we have this separate family room on this floor that truly is a private family space. So this is not a feature we've ever had before, and I found that I really like the separation of spaces. So let me show you around this room. I'll point out some interesting architectural features, and then we'll go through the furnishings, and I'll show you how we have decorated this room on the cheap. Okay, so before I forget, I do want to mention that something that's really cool about this house is that while it's a very, very long house, it's not particularly deep. And what makes that nice is that most of the rooms have windows on the front of the house, like here, as well as windows on the back of the house. And what this means is that even as the sun moves throughout the day, we continue to have really great lighting in the rooms. And because, especially in the summer, it doesn't get dark here until quite late, in July, almost 11 o'clock at night, it means we don't have to use nearly as much electricity to light the rooms. So nature more or less takes care of most of that. All right, so this room does have its own working fireplace. Now, this is not a fireplace that we actually are currently using, mainly because if you look at it, you'll see it's not a particularly deep fireplace. And I think if we were to use it in this room, that it would actually probably be kind of smoky. So we just usually have some candles in there and enjoy it that way. Now, we did bring some furniture with us when we moved from the US, and since being here, we have slowly been accumulating pieces. Now, one thing you may have heard me mention before is that we are trying to be very intentional about how we furnish the rooms. We don't want to have a bunch of stuff just to have stuff. We want it to be very easy to clean. We don't want to spend all of our time cleaning the house. So it's fairly sparse in the way we've chosen to decorate. Now, we're certainly not done, and we will no doubt add more decorative features over time. But when we're shopping, we are being very, very intentional and asking ourselves what we really need to furnish the space and to enjoy our home the way we want to, and just not bringing a bunch of extra stuff in. So let's start with the bed. Now, I know this looks like a traditional canopy bed, but in fact, there's a bit of frugal trickery in play here. So let me show you. If we come over here, you can see that instead of being an actual piece of furniture, there's simply a set of curtain rods that wrap the bed so that you have a way to hang the curtains and create the illusion of a canopy bed. Now, I can't take credit for this. The previous homeowner put this in place, but I have swapped out the curtains. So they had gray polyester curtains, and I've replaced those with these linen curtains simply because I just wanted something a little lighter and airier. Now, to complete the illusion of this being an actual bed, they also have a built-in headboard. So I think this is brilliant. It meant that we got the look we were going for without having to spend a bunch of money on an expensive piece of furniture. Now, to give the space just a little more personality and character, We've added this original painting that we found very cheaply at a local consignment store. And before we move on to some of the other features in the room, there is one more thing about this bed that I want to point out. And I don't know if you'll have spotted this yet or not. Now, this is a king-size bed, but instead of having a king-size duvet, we actually have two twins. Now, you can certainly buy king-size duvets in France, but quite often you will see across Europe the use of two twin duvets instead. Now, I don't know all the reasons for that. I can tell you, for us personally, it's really just a matter of practicality. So a king-size duvet will not fit in our washer or dryer, but these twin-size ones will. So this means that we have the convenience of being able to wash these here at the house and without the added expense of going somewhere to wash them. So sometime in the future, I will do a whole video about how laundry works in France, because there are definitely some differences between here and the US. But this is just us testing something out to come up with something that really works best for us. And so with that in mind, we actually have not yet bought much in the way of linens for the other bedrooms, because we're testing some things out to see what works best for us, so that we don't end up spending a bunch of money on things that we ultimately decide aren't going to work out. Okay, so let's talk about curtains. Now, it has taken me quite a while to accumulate curtains for the house, and that's simply because I'm very determined to only have cotton or linen curtains. And most of what I'm coming across secondhand is polyester. So I am having to be a little patient, and that's fine. We don't really need to do everything the minute we got here. You know, we're 18 months in, and we're totally fine with the fact that there are spaces that are not fully furnished or decorated yet. So these curtains, I was very lucky to find these on Facebook Marketplace. They are actually cotton twill, so they're a nice heavyweight curtain. And there were 2 sets of them, so that covered 2 out of the 3 bedrooms, or excuse me, 2 out of the 3 windows in the bedroom. You may recall that there's a 3rd window over here, so I'm still patiently waiting for a set for that. But I will say also, all of the curtain rods in this room, really, and across the house, have all been thrifted. So they were stained various shades, and we bought them very, very cheaply and then repainted them white. So we even have this one sitting in place, ready to go as soon as we find our last set of curtains. Now, I don't know if you've spotted this yet, but all of the windows in our bedroom have internal shutters, which is brilliant because you can close them and very quickly it gets dark in the room. So if you want to sleep in, you can do that. If you have a headache, you can kind of tune out the outside world and do what you need to do. So, and eventually this back window will overlook our kitchen garden. I have lots of ideas for doing a really formal kitchen garden, so very excited about what that view will look like in the future. Okay, but in the meantime, let's talk about details that are already here in the room. So we found this sofa, this little banquette, at our local thrift store. I think it was 60 or 70. It was very reasonable. It's already been completely redone, reupholstered. And then this candelabra next to it is an old, like, true candelabra for candles that has been at some point has been electrified. So that was another thrift store find. This plant stand was, I think that was at a vide grenier, so basically like at a yard sale. And I think all of the plants at this point that you see in the house were left by the previous owner. So I have been collecting white pottery and replanting them all. So the flower pot is one that we have gotten secondhand or thrifted or vide grenier. Okay, now the furniture in the room, the dressers, came with us from the US. So we have had these for many, many years. We bought them at an estate sale that one of our neighbors was having. So this is Mr. Huff's dresser here. And then mine is over here. So it's kind of funny how well they ended up fitting into this room. Because like I said, we've just had these for years and years. And then they are, as you will see, exactly the same color as the top of the fireplace over there. So that worked out great. The nightstands, the previous homeowner left those behind for us. So they're not actually a match set. And you may have heard me mention that in France, it's surprisingly difficult to find matching vintage or antique nightstands for whatever reason. So they are not quite a set, but since they are painted white and on different sides of the bed, you really don't notice. Now this one had a lot of damage to the top, and I have repainted it. So those are working out great, and that was free. And you may have seen when we made these lamps, or when Aaron made these lamps, I had an idea for turning these old pottery bottles into lamps. And so he got all of the lamp parts to do that. And I think they turned out great. So we each have a matching lamp that didn't cost very much. Because I don't know if you've shopped for lamps retail these days, but ouch. Okay, so what else can I show you? Another architectural feature of this room, and of many rooms in the house, is this little niche here. So a lot of the rooms have them. And I hung this piece of art that we have actually had for quite a few years. So it's actually made up of a bunch of rosettes from the door frame of a bunch of antique doors. I came across a bunch of them at a yard sale one time, and I just really liked the look of them, and so I came up with the idea of assembling them like this to create a piece of art. So this was in our bedroom in our old house, and we simply just brought it here. And I think it looks really nice in this little niche. Okay, so aside from that, just a few little bits and bobs left, I suppose. So this piece here that's on Mr. Huff's dresser used to belong to his dad. So as you can see, it's like a little antique car that's completely made of like old watch parts or clock parts. So that was something his dad had that he always admired. And now it's here on his dresser. And then his letter A I found for him once upon a time at a yard sale. And of course, milk glass is just something I have a bit of a collection of. Some pieces here and there. So I think that's about our room. Oh, I guess we haven't talked about our armoire here. So I have a closet over here that has my clothes as well as our linens, so it's double duty. And then we purchased this armoire from the previous homeowners, and they had it out in the cellar at the time. It was full of paint when we moved here. So we emptied it out and brought it back up here, and that serves as Mr. Huff's closet. So that's worked out really well. Neither of us have a ton of clothes, and that provides more than enough space for us. And then we do love to have the windows open here. So we're trying to collect door stops for all of the rooms so that the doors don't slam when the windows are open and it's breezy. So this one came from our favorite thrift store, and I think that was €4. So we have not spent a ton of money on this room, but it's really, really a very nice and peaceful space. And we'll continue to add little touches over time, but for now we're really pleased with it. And I thought it would be fun to share the space with you guys today.